Hello, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Happy Wednesday to all of you. If you are here, first of all, please get those likes up. Tag anybody on this discussion who you think may find it interesting. Like, comment, share. Thank you to all of you guys who are here. I'm actually really excited about today's topic. We're going to be talking about PickMes in Sims, and specifically whether or not PickMes are female Sims. Many of you guys, I'm sure, have heard the term used, overused, thrown around just like nothing. And so I got a few experts in the house that I think are going to give a really interesting perspective on this topic. Shout out to Eugene Steele with the 10 on the super chat. I see these feminists, gynocrats, and other genetically modified females want to use the word pick me negatively to make real women believe they are weak. Keep rising, pick me nation. Again, thank you, Eugene Steele. Yeah, it's funny, and we're gonna get into this, but I've seen pick me take on many different terms, many different forms, some negative, some positive. So, like I said, we're gonna get into it. But again, if you're here, get those likes up, and I'm going to bring on the special guest, and we are gonna get the conversation started. So, 1 second. Hello, lovely people.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey.
Thank you all, first of all, for being here. I'm glad, first of all, to have you, and I'm really excited to hear your guys' perspective. I mean, all of you guys are, I think, really well known in the space, and I think are going to have some really great insight to offer on this particular topic. So, thank you again, just for your time, for spending, this hour or two with me to share your perspective. It's very much appreciated. And then, real quickly before we get into it, I'm sure you guys are fully aware of the guests, but just in case, we have the lovely Miss RebeccaBarrett here, BernardRiley, who's very well known in the manosphere space. Also, not really. Well, on the way, on the way. Looks like I'm hearing a bit of feedback here. Ooh, 1 second. Or is that just me? It's so funny how everything's fine backstage, and then you go live, and then you get in all these technical issues. So y'all gotta excuse me on the struggle stream situation. Okay, but anyways, so we got BernardRiley here on the rise in the manosphere. Maybe I can say that. Mr. Obsidian, who needs no introduction. Y'all all know him. And then the Miss lovely Chantel Simone.
Hey, guys.
Yes, so I'm excited to have you guys here and to hear your guys' perspective on this topic. Like I said, I've heard pick-me's and SiMPS really just thrown around freely. And I'm like, I think we actually really need to sit down and define, what does this mean? What do these terms actually mean? And whether or not they are impacting negatively or positively the dating and relationship market. Shout out to Snuggles. Snug with that 5 on the suit. I see your face, Bernard. Shout out to Snugs with that 5 on the super chat. It's always a pleasure to have you here. I see. Can you demand Bernard to play my music ASAP?
That's I'll explain. Okay, Snuggles. I take full responsibility for Snuggles and all the crazy stuff she's gonna say in your chat room. She was like I called her the $5 super chat champion of the world on my channel. So I gave her a special greeting. Had the little Snuggles bear from the fabric softener pop up on the screen, and she's asking that I can she somehow thinks I can play that on your channel as if I have the controls or the video dropped into, like, it doesn't work like that, Snuggles. It just don't.
Sorry, Snugs. I think we need a bigger super chat to work that out. No, it's all good. It's all good. It's always a pleasure. Okay, well, without further ado, I'm going to get right into the questions because I do want to be mindful of time here. Let's see. So actually, you know what? I'll start with you, Bernard. What is your definition of a simp and a pick-me? Like, how would you define those two terms?
Well, pick-me is still an evolving term, and the full definition of it, I don't even know if it has exactly landed. So I'll just speak to what a simp is as I understand it. If you ask other people, you may get a different definition. As I understand it, a man who overvalues women at the expense of himself. He thinks he puts them up on a pedestal. He has a lack of respect for himself, which means he'll end up tolerating a lot of disrespect from women. That's how it plays out in real life. The online simp or white knight is the person who blindly defends women at all cost. And it happens a lot on my show. When I'm doing a show, something will happen. I think we give a fairly objective critique of some of what's going on with I'll use the term modern women. I think we do a pretty objective critique. But there's somebody, no matter what we're talking about, they're going to defend the women at all costs. That person gets labeled as a simp. That's how it plays out online. The right definition for that is probably what we call a white knight, somebody who's always riding in. He rides in on that white horse to try to save the woman that's in the hot seat all the time online. That's how it tends to play out online. But in real life, it's the person who's doing too much. He's doing too much for a woman at the expense of his own dignity. If he's doing right by a woman, he values that woman and she values him, that's a different thing. That's not a simp. But if she doesn't value him, but he's doing everything in his power to show that he values her and she doesn't even appreciate it, then that puts him in the category of simp. Pick me is a whole nother ordeal because, again, the term is evolving. It started out as a slander, a derogatory term for women who either speak up for men, or women who generally like men, or women who state the things that they will do for their man. Women who appreciate men or appreciate their man. Those women started getting called pick-mes, and they started being typecast as women who will tolerate and accept anything. And that's why the pick-me simp dynamic, that's how that came into play. So if we're just talking about definitions alone, that's the negative definition of what a pick-me is. And I'm glad that a lot of women online have sort of taken it back and said, no, yes, we are pick-mes. We're proud pick-mes. We do value men, or we value our man. We're going to treat them right. We are going to cater to them. We're going to do things that women have traditionally done, and we're proud of that. And so that's the definition of it that I'm sure that you and the other women on the panel would use, that particular definition. But y'all are sort of at war right now with the people that want to put another definition on it versus your definition. So right now, pick me is still evolving, and it hasn't exactly landed yet. I don't know who's going to win that war that y'all are fighting right now for the word pick me. So there it is. You are muted.
You are muted.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I muted myself. Okay.
It looked like you were saying something really profound. You had the hand movement.
I only say profound things.
Yeah.
No, I'm playing. Okay, so really interesting definition. It sounds like, based upon what you said, simp, no matter how you put it, it's just all bad. There's nothing positive about being a simp. Whereas pick me, depending upon the context and the situation, and because it really is, I guess, still being defined, it could be a positive thing, it could be a negative thing. It just depends upon who's saying it.
Right, exactly. The reason simp is all negative no matter what, because simp, as it's defined, if the woman appreciated him and did right by him, he wouldn't be a simp. He would be just a man treating a woman well, and she's treating him well, as well. So he's only a simp because the woman doesn't value or appreciate what he's doing.
Okay, fair point. Rebecca, what do you think? What is your definition of a simp versus a pick-me?
I agree with Bernard on a lot of things as it relates to being a simp. I think simps, they don't get respect from men and women. And where I think the definition of a pick-me, like he said, is evolving. But it depends on what camp you're in. I think that men call women pick-mes as like a sign of adoration, or like
Right.
this is a good thing. Like, we want pick me women. And I think that a lot of women use it as a derogatory like put down for women. And I've been called a pick me. I'm like, I'm married, I've been picked. I just speak to hold women accountable. And I think that's the difference, right? Because pick me's, they say they put women down. Or other women say pick me's put women down. But I believe it's about holding women accountable. If we are women in the space and say like, hey, I don't know, being an OnlyFans model or being a prostitute is probably not a good thing.
Oh,
Maybe change your ways a little bit. And yeah, we get called pick me's. I get called all other names under the sun. So
I'm sure what it is. I'm sure with your following, I mean, I think I was on, I'll be, I think at a year, like maybe within a month or two, but like maybe a month or two in, I never heard of the term pick me until I started hearing it. And I think it was like one video in particular where I was like, to me, it was just like a balanced conversation. It's like, it was some situation, I think, where, you know, clearly the woman was not right. It's just like night as day. And so I'm like, yeah, oh yeah, that wasn't right. And then all of a sudden I got pick me, mammy, male identified, black man worshiper. I mean, just any negative definition you can think of, literally, because I'm just like, yeah, men have feelings too.
Yeah.
And maybe she wasn't right. I'm like, it's just simple, not even anything crazy, just like a logical discussion. So to your point,
yeah, they think I have internalized misogyny. And I was like, listen, babe, I was a feminist in my former life. So
right. So you would know. You would know more than anything.
Okay, sounds great.
Interesting. Mr. Obsidian, what do you think? How would you define a simp and a pick me?
You know, to tell you the truth, I really don't think about a lot of these things. I don't think about them very often. Okay. I don't find them to be very applicable in my line of work. I don't spend a lot of time around men who talk about simps, and I don't spend a lot of my time around women who talk about pick-me's. So it's kind of, in a sense, I mean, I know that's a little anticlimactic, but you know, in a very real sense, it's a non-factor for me. You know, I noticed, I hope you don't mind my saying this, Rebecca. This is a little bit of an in-house type of thing, but I'm about to say a family thing. You know, I notice a lot of black people tend to talk about things that really don't involve them, right? Or they tend to talk about things that clearly they're upset with, but they don't want to do anything to make a radical break from them. So, for example, a lot of black women will talk about ineffectual black men, right? And then I ask them, why do you keep focusing on ineffectual black men? And they just go silent on me. A lot of black men will talk about thought this, thought that. And I say, well, why do you keep focusing on thoughts? And they just go silent on me. See, I focus on people that, you know, that I want in my life that are beneficial to my life. But I think for a lot of black people, they're so addicted to pain and discomfort. That's all they know. They don't know anything else. So I don't spend my time around black men that, you know, talk about simps. I just don't. The guys that I spend my time around, they don't talk about black men in those terms. And as far as the black women are concerned, I don't spend my time around black women that call other black women pick-me's. I just don't.
Right. No, that makes sense. You know, I think women, who do that, I think there's a couple of things, but jealousy is a real thing. Jealousy is a real thing. And there are certain women that I've encountered, or just even certain women that I've seen who have been at the brunt of the hate. And I'm looking at it and I'm just like, this is just jealousy. There's really no other way to paint it. Because when it's so illogical, and it's like you can't even really explain why you are terming this person or deeming this person as negative. I think there's some people who are they're motivated by jealousy. I can speak for the women, and that comes out in some of these pick me, mammy, whatever terms. And at the end of the day, it's just like, yeah, I don't think you're happy with yourself. Now, I can't speak for the men, but I will say I think that sometimes drives the conversation, and sometimes the incessant need that some women have to just so quickly label women as that. So Chantel, what do you think? How would you define pick me and simp?
So let's start with simp. I'll define simp as Bernard said, a guy who is going above and beyond to seek validation from a woman and she's not reciprocating. All right, kind of like Babyface. I'll cook you food as soon as I get home from work. I'll buy you, I'll pay your rent. I'll consider that a simp because he's paying the rent and he's cooking the meal. She's not doing anything to return the favor. She's not doing anything to reciprocate. A simp, as someone in the comments says, a simp goes against the male nature. Always thinking that the woman is the top priority. That goes against the male nature. Now for pick me, when I first, I'm with Obsidian with this, I was just minding my business, making my videos. And that was a year and a half ago. I made one video saying men feel loved when they feel needed. And it's a common narrative in the Black community to say, I don't need a man for anything. Right. And I mean, that's just common sense, right? That's just, as you say, nicest day. I was just saying that. And I got a lot of pick me comments. I thought a pick me was a woman who would constantly seek validation from a man who wasn't reciprocating. Like a simp would seek validation from a woman who wasn't reciprocating. However, when we get online and we are not saying anything negative about men, we're just being, neutral. We're just, talking how a woman can be better herself, how a woman can be held accountable, then you're a pick me. You don't have to mention guys. You don't have to praise men. You don't have to say, oh, I love men, especially Black men. Oh my God. You don't even have to, you can date white men. As long as you're not saying anything negative about Black men, then you're a pick me. So just like the number sign, for those of you guys who are 30 plus, we used to call the hashtag symbol the number sign, and now the name has changed to the hashtag, right? So the definition of that symbol, the name for that symbol have changed. Nowadays, it's the definition of the word pick me has changed.
No, that makes so much sense. That makes so much sense. And minding your own business. That's what's funny to me. You're over here minding your own business. You ain't talking to nobody, and then the hellfire comes.
I always say, if there's one thing you hear about Chantel, she minding her own business. I'm always minding my own business.
If you're here, please get those likes up. And thank all of you guys for those responses. I think you guys really hit it with what it is, how it's evolving, and how it's being used to, in some ways, try to degrade people. A special shout out to AKs and Curtains with the 10 on the super chat. I see a pick me is being used as a slanderous term for women that came to the game equipped versus women that came to the basketball game with a baseball bat screaming strong and independent. That is bars. Chantel, you hit on something. It actually, because I looked this up, I think a few months ago when I kept on hearing this term and I'm like, what is this? So naturally I turned to Urban Dictionary because that is the authority on everything. And they did have a definition of pick me that was kind of what you described traditionally, right? Like a woman who has no accountability, that has no standards, has no boundaries, bends over backwards to her man at the expense of her own self and at the expense of other women. So they kind of painted it as this woman who's just a total, being beaten up, being abused,
and more specifically, bending over backwards for a man who isn't reciprocating.
Right, or who isn't worth bending over backwards for, really. And so it was, it was all negative. But to your point, I have never seen a man win the space use the term pick me negatively. Not once. Now, granted, like I said, I'm still newer, so that I could be wrong. But in my experience, I've never seen a man term a woman or a YouTuber a pick me and that be bad. Now, women, I've never seen a woman in most cases call a woman pick me and it be positive. So, I think that definition, as we've all discussed, pretty much seems to be a little bit more nuanced. Or a simp, I think all across the board, it's just there ain't nothing positive about being a simp. So, Okay, on to the next question. So I will start with you, Obsidian, and I think this is pretty self-explanatory. But in your opinion, is there a benefit to simping?
Pardon?
In your opinion, is there a benefit to simping?
I have no idea. I like I said, I just don't hang around guys who deal with that type of ideology or that type of concept. I don't hang around brown nosers. I don't hang around kiss ups. I don't hang around booty lickers. I don't hang around white knights. It was he. I don't hang around people like that. I just don't.
Okay, so you've never you can't think of a situation where you saw a man simping.
Oh yeah, I've seen plenty of guys do it. It was he who was traveling through the forest, Sir Simpleton of Simptown. Yeah, sure, I see it, but I mean, I can't personally relate to it.
Fair point.
And as far as I know, simps don't get laid, so they're doing all that. I mean, they can sniff it, but they can't hit it. They can smell it, but they can't hit it.
Okay, so again, you're just like, I choose not to associate with people who are even in this conversation.
Absolutely, that's one of the great things about being successful. I can fix it to where I can keep the simpleton out. They can't afford to be where I'm at.
Yeah,
can't afford it.
I hear you.
It was he.
Right. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm referring to a clip that Bernard likes to play on his show.
Yeah.
Got it.
I don't know if he can play it, but it's really good, man. Yeah, it was he. He used through the forest, this white knight on his mighty steed. It was he. So I mean, to me, I just keep those guys away from me. I mean, they actually are booty repelling. I hope they know that. If you're a simp, you are repelling the booty. You can smell it, but you can't hit it. See what women do is they get with the assholes and they hit it, and then they go and complain to the simps about it.
Interesting point. All right. Well, Bernard, what do you think? Is there a benefit to simping?
I would say very, very low return on the investment. And, as someone who has formally simped in the past, yeah, it's very low return on the investment. I mean, it's if you keep at it long enough, you throw enough spaghetti against the wall, something's going to stick. Okay, it might work, but generally no. You're putting yourself in a weaker position. Even if she kind of liked you a little bit, if you're showing that you're completely valuing her more than she's valuing you, and she's not giving any reciprocation at all, and she sees that, and she sees you still coming full on, and she's not giving you anything back, at that point, she's looking at you as somebody who she's either going to do the right thing and just leave you alone if she don't like you, but if she's kind of for lack of a better way to describe it, a bad person, she'll just keep you around and just leech off any benefit she can from you. And then after a long, long time of you doing that, you might get lucky, but overall, usually no. It's no return on that investment. And I know that firsthand because a long time ago, many moons ago, I have simped. So it's not a good thing. No bad, very, very low return on the investment.
Okay, so you are a reformed simp, so you can speak from experience and say there's no benefit, which, of course, I mean, anytime you're in a situation where you're doing all and there's no reciprocation, that's an unhealthy setup. Period. I don't care who it is.
Right.
So, all right, Chantel, what do you think? Is there a benefit to simping?
So I think for the simp, there is a benefit for the simp, right? Perfect example. Let's look at Russell Wilson. King of simping in my eyes, right? In his eyes, he got the girl, right? Russell Wilson thinks in his head that he won, even though his wife is still on social media twerking naked. So I think it depends on whose points of view you're looking at it from. For us, if for women, if we were to actually start speaking the truth and admit that, hey, we don't like simps, all right, we want men with backbones, we want men who can make decisions and problem solve, And usually that's not a simp, because then a simp is going to ask us, well, how do you feel before, they solve a problem? And we're like, dude, right? Change the tire. Don't flip the coin. But yeah, I think in their head, there's a benefit to it, because in the long run they can hold out as long as they want, and they can stay in the friend zone and listen to her problems when she cry about Future not paying child support, and then he's gonna just swoop in and save the day and take over as the baby's dad. So in his head he's like, yeah, I won. We're just like, the rest of us looking at him like, okay. So I think it depends on what point of view you're looking at it from.
Fair point. So you do think there are some situations where you feel like simping can be beneficial?
I think to a simp thinks simping can be beneficial. I think these men who, wear the cape for modern, quote unquote, modern women, they think that if I speak up against them, if I hate Kevin Samuels hard enough, then eventually I'm going to get one of these women. So they're saying, okay, in order to get one of these career women, I just have to hate Kevin Samuels. So they're thinking of being a simp being beneficial.
Interesting. Okay. Rebecca, what do you think? Is there a benefit to simping?
No.
Okay, why not?
I think the problem is that it enables bad women. So you're essentially creating the problem, like they're creating the problem that we're seeing, in the sense of, okay, well, these women are taking advantage, right? They're acting out. Modern women can say whatever they want to say, and they're still going to get validation. They're still going to get attention. They're still going to get the meals and all that other stuff. And I think it's a problem. I honestly think it's a problem, because it enables these women to do whatever they want, and they see no issue with it. So that's my stance on it. I could be wrong, but that's how I look at it, in a sense. Because if you have a man with a backbone who is in his masculine form, he's gonna stand his ground. He's gonna keep his masculine frame, and he's gonna say it how it is. And more women need to hear that, and that's why I speak on my channel, right? I have my platform to speak to women, like Chantel. I don't say anything about men. Like, I literally speak to women, and I still get called a pick me. But it's because, what's happening is that women don't want to listen. And so we need to share our perspective as women, so that, Kevin Samuels can get a break. All these guys out here can get a break, right? Because it's important to hear it from a woman's perspective as well. So I don't know. That's
Let me ask you a question, Rebecca. I'm just curious. Do you consider white women and black women to be on par in their bullheadedness in these regards? Or do you see? I think if you was to take a quick spin around the internet, the general consensus among black men is that black women are far and away more hard-headed and bullheaded in this regard than white women are. So, what is your sense of it?
I think it's cross-cultural. I think that feminism has literally taken over Western civilization. You see it, like, I'm from Brazil. I'm Brazilian. I see this happening in Brazil, in Latin American countries, everywhere. This is not just a black problem. This is not a black culture problem. This is happening within every society, every ethnic background. Feminism is literally what women are preaching to other women. So I think and I've been in the feminist spaces with other white women. And let me just tell you, it is just as bad, if not worse.
I know now, granted, I'm, obviously I'm not white, but I have a lot of different friends, all different ethnic backgrounds. And some of the most ratchet, crazy behavior that I've ever seen or experienced has been from non-black women. Now, of course, I know there's some ratchet out there. We all have seen it online, but I in my personal life know some really crazy, just absolutely insane non-black Black women who are just like, you can call it feminism, you can call it mental illness, maybe a little bit of both, but it's just like, you are not well. So you saying that to me, it does make sense, because I think, I mean, the fact that even the manosphere is such to where that is multi-ethnic. Obviously, you have the Black manosphere, the Negro manosphere is its own thing, but you have men all across the board who are kind of have similar shared complaints. So to me, that's not surprising at all.
And, you know, to add, I find that a lot of people in the Black community really think that it's only happening in the Black community, and more specifically, the African-American community. Because when I started my channel, they're like, oh, you have no right to talk about it because you're Jamaican. And I've never specified, and I'm saying ADOS, I'm never specified, and I'm talking about a specific, you know, cultural group. And to click on my video and hear my accent and assume that I'm talking about African Americans, it's, you know, it's very narrow-minded. I can say that I'm speaking about Jamaicans because we're experiencing the exact same thing in Jamaica. And the more we can, the more we remove ourselves from this box, saying like, oh, it's only my community or it's only happening here, the more we'll start resolving the issues, because it's a worldwide thing. Someone on my show called up last week, said he's from Ghana, and it's happening in his country. And, you know, that's where people trying to get their passport to go. And, you know, it's happening over there. So the more we come together culturally and speak up, I think only then we'll start seeing significant changes.
You're muted again.
I did that on purpose. I did that on purpose. If you guys wouldn't mind, when you're not speaking, if you can hit the mute button, because I think that's where the echo's coming from. So, but no, I think you make some great points. You make some great points, Chantel. I've actually heard that from a few African men too, who have said, yeah, even out in certain parts in Africa, you're starting to see this ideology, and I really think it goes back to a you know, whether you want to call it a sickness of the Western, you know, model, or of just a modern industrialized model, either way. But you know, anytime you start seeing women start kind of embrace this modern ideology, then that's kind of like that goes along with it. And I think that's partially why you are probably seeing more developing nations or other nations that tend to be more traditional starting to have sparks of this. And then Ghana in particular, you have a lot of Americans who are actually going over there, and I wonder if that's what's kind of bringing the influence. So yes, also special shout out to Danica with the 30 on the super chat. Always a pleasure to have you in the building. I see peace to Shay, Sade, Chantel, Rebecca, Bernard, and Obsidian just got in, but that shall be interesting. Also, a shout out to Deanie with the 5 on the super chat. I see it seems like there's a very thin line between simping and just being a nice guy, and vice versa for pick me. Some people just want to be uncivil. That is, that's facts. Well, actually, I don't know if I'd say that's facts. I think depending on who you talk to, simping, from what I understand, yeah, actually, I don't know. Do you guys have any thoughts on that?
I don't think there's a very thick line between that, right? There's no thin line. The line is broad. I think the main point is the reciprocation, because I mean, guys I've dated, they aren't simp, right? Like, I cannot get away with certain things. Like, you know, they don't even, I mean, if they say something, I can't even ask a question, you know, to clarify, because that's what they say. They stand in there, but they're very sweet guys. Like, I got taken out on dates, I got flowers, I got, you know, I think it's the reciprocation that comes with it. So there's no thin line between being a nice guy and being a simp. I think a simp just tries so hard to get validation from the woman when there's no reciprocation, and a nice guy reciprocates and gets reciprocation and is just a nice guy.
You know, I wonder if he's referring to, because there is, I think, an extreme group of people out there, men out there, who believe that supporting women in any way capacity is simping. So if you're like, for example, let's say you're a content creator and you really like the content, if you send in a 99-cent super chat, oh, that's a simp.
Yeah. I'll get comments and like, oh, I like your hair. Somebody under it, oh, you're a simp.
Right.
That's literally where I was going to go with it. I was trying to talk, but I was muted. But yeah, no, that's it. Y'all hit it right on the head. And I see that. I see that a lot, on my channel because it's mostly men. It's like 90. That goes up and down depending on the month, but like 90 to 92% men there. And if somebody gives a compliment to a woman, and everybody's calling them a simp. So yeah, that happens. That's where people mess up the name simp. If somebody's simping, let them earn it. Let them earn it. That's where I'm at with it. So yeah, so that's more or less what it is.
All right. So to that point, then, is it possible that the definition of a simp is changing, just like how the definition of pick me changed?
Well, I don't know if the definition is changing. I think chat rooms have a tendency to be, for a lack of a better way to describe it, stupid, and they tend to just say ridiculous stuff, and then sometimes a mob mentality could take over. But overall, I think people know what it is. It's just there's a lot of people that chat room, that's like their platform. Like all of us have platforms. We could take the time and think about it and get our thoughts, views, and ideas out there. But the person trying to get noticed or make waves in a chat room, he's just sitting there typing crazy stuff, and then people jump in with it. And so I don't think the definition is changing. I just think chat rooms push the envelope, sometimes for attention, sometimes to be funny, sometimes just to be irritants and just disrupt the flow. So that's more or less what it is. But it's not changing of a definition. It's just people being people.
Fair point. If you're on here, please get those likes up. Have anybody on this discussion who you think may find it interesting. We are talking about whether or not pick-me's are female simps. So on to the next question. Okay, let's see. So, Rebecca, in your opinion, are all women pick-me's?
I mean, I don't know. I've never even thought about that question, to be honest. I think that here's the thing. I find women to be in two camps at this point. You have women that want to be married, but they have no idea what that actually looks like, right? They want to be married, they want to be a wife, but they don't know how to. Or they've been listening to the ideologies of modern society and think that what they're doing is going to get them to marriage. And then I think you have the other side where you have just women who hate men, like just full-blown misandry. And so I guess I don't think all women want to be pick-me's. Maybe they don't vocalize it. Even the women that say they hate men and they want nothing to do with men, they probably have the most internalized pick-me nature, I guess. But I don't know. That's how I see it. I find women to be in two camps. And I think that the women that are inclined to change, or the women that are inclined to listen to this information and make a shift, are the women that don't know what it means to be a wife, or doesn't know what it means to be picked, but wanting that information. And the people that label us pick-me's are on the other side, which are hating men and want other women to hate men with them and join in their despair. And that's enough. So
that makes total sense. I'll interject once you guys have had a chance to speak. Bernard, what do you think? Are all women pick-me's?
You can say yes to that question if you define a pick-me simply as a woman who wants to be picked. And I think that's how you defined it at times when you said it. I don't want to give away what you're going to say. Well, what I think you're going to say. But I remember before you said that, all women are pick-me's because they all at some level want to get picked. Even if it's by a small group, small percentage of the men out there that they would like to be picked by. If that man shows up, they would happily be picked by him. But when you look at it from a broader perspective, I will say no, that they're all not pick-me's, because a lot of women, if you look at how, we talked about feminism a few times already on this show, the way a lot of them are operating, yes, they would like a man. Yes, they would like to be picked, but they want the man, you know, on basically on their terms. You know, they don't want it, they don't want it on the man's terms. They don't want to, you know, submit to whatever the man wants from them. They want the man to essentially submit to what they want. So we can't, I mean, yes, they're being picked, but we can't call that a pick me based off the definitions that we've agreed to. So that's where I'm at with that.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Obsidian, what do you think? Are all women pick me's?
He might have to unmute.
If you're there.
Oh, okay. I don't know. Let me not.
You got it?
Okay, I thought I was okay. So yeah, to the question, are all women pick me's? I don't think so. I think some women are okay being you know, not picked.
Fair point. Fair point. Chantel, what do you think? Are all women pick me's?
I don't think all women are pick me's. I think all women want to be picked, but they're not pick me's. Kind of like how all women, or most, let's say most women want to be wives, but they're not all wives. In terms of they don't have the qualities and the characteristics to be a wife. So it's the same thing. You know, they want to be picked by a man, no matter how strong, independent they say they are, but they don't have the qualities of being a pick me. So again, if you're just going to define, as Bernard said, if you're just going to define a pick me as someone who just wants to be picked, then yes, technically they all are. But as we said earlier, you know, that's not the definition of a pick me. So then no, not all women are pick me's.
Fair point. Yeah, I think I mean, Bernard kind of gave a bit of it away.
I'm sorry, I gave away you.
Okay, but I've always, I mean, if we take the denotative, like, technical term, I'm like, if you think pick me, like he picked me, I'm like, from that sense, I'm like, yeah, all women want to be picked. And my theory is that, you know, a lot of women find themselves getting picked by the wrong guy, right? They get in a bad situation time and time again. Maybe they allow Pookie, you know, whatever. And then now fast forward, and then now they're upset and they're mad. And then they're mad at, you know, pick me's who are with good men, right? Or who in happy situations. And I think this is not all situations, but I think in some instances where, especially where you see that like bitter venom coming from women, when it comes to like women being in relationships or women being happy or being, you know, okay with, you know, praising their men, if you will, or being nice to their men, those women, I feel like sometimes it's because they were picking for the wrong men. And now they're you know, they're hurt, their heart's broken. And they internalize that, and they're just like, oh, being a pick me is wrong, being a pick me is wrong. And it's like, no, there's nothing wrong with being a pick me. It's just you actually do have to have standards. And if you are a pick me for the wrong guy, then that is a problem. So
no, and to even add, sometimes it's not even them picking. Well, they repeat their undesirable dating pattern by dating wrong men, but sometimes they got hurt by their dads when they were younger. You know, their dads represent the first love from opposite sex, and maybe he wasn't reliable, and then they associate men not being reliable, so then they think of, how should I be a pick me for someone who's not even reliable? So sometimes it stems from that far. That's why self-awareness is key, and, you know, understanding why, because it's a genuine hate. The simple fact, as Rebecca said, you know, you can sit there and say, oh, if your husband likes nails, let's put on nails. And they're like, oh my gosh, you're a pick me. Your mommy's like, okay. Like, you know, so that hatred that they have about pleasing a man, like, that is deep. That is way more than their relationship pattern. That has something to do with childhood trauma.
Yeah, no, I would agree there. If you're on here, please get those likes up and tag anybody on this discussion or share it with somebody who you think may find it interesting. Also, I want to give a shout out to that is Real Fan Sapien. I think it's Sapien. It says, Pick Me Nation, thank you ladies for having this discussion. It's so helpful to maintain my personal feminine foundation. Our social media diets matter. Absolutely. Thank you, ladies and gents and gentlemen, for being here. Always fun. Always fun. So, okay, on to the next question. So, we're going to go a little bit away from the pick me simp technicalities, but I think this is still relevant. Let's say Chantel. In your opinion, actually, I know what you're going to say because we actually had a separate discussion on this. But are there double standards expected for men and women in relationships?
Yes.
You want to explain how, why?
There are double standards, but they're double standards because they're different roles. And they're different expectations. So wait, what do you mean? Like double standards as in like a man is
maybe however you define it, but when I think double standards, I think of different expectations. Maybe the expectation of, okay, for example, I'm going to be modern and I'm going to do my boss babe thing, level up. I'm going to have my full-time job and make money, but he still needs to pay for everything. You know what I mean? So maybe that's a double standard, for example.
Yes. So there are definitely 100% double standards. And again, it just goes back to the understanding that men and women aren't the same. So a lot of times when I hear people crying over the double standards, like, this whole sexual liberation movement that they're trying to do, women want to sleep around as much as men do. And it's like, do we not understand our bodies? Just looking at how we were created, we literally cannot do that. So I think there are double standards, of course, but if we were to start using common sense when we have these discussions, then we wouldn't even get so caught up on the double standards. We'll just acknowledge and accept that men and women aren't the same.
Okay, that makes sense. Mr. Obsidian, what do you think? Are there double standards between men and women when it comes to dating, mating, relationships?
Yes.
What are your thoughts on this?
Yes.
Okay, can you expound upon how, why, how it affects people? Good, bad? What do you think?
Well, how it affects people is their business. But is there double standards between men and women for mating and dating? Yes.
What would you say in particular that you have noticed to be the most? Has there been like one thing, recurring thing you've noticed the most in your life as far
There's no
as
such thing as a male hoe.
That there's no such thing as the male hoe? Is that what you said?
Right. There's no such thing as a male hoe. There's a Lothario. There's a player. There's a pimp. But there's no such thing as a male hoe. No matter how much women, black, white, or otherwise, stamp their feet and and snort and shout and holler and yell, bellow. There's never going to be a male hoe. Never. Never. Those are heroes. That's what we call them. Getting multiple women to say yes makes you a hero.
Okay. So you're saying men who sleep around and have a high body count are
heroic.
So they'll never be.
They approach mythic status, like Hercules or Achilles or Hector or all the great pantheon. They're the great pantheon of swordsmen.
Okay. And you're saying, but for women, if a woman has a high body count, that'll never be seen across the board as something positive. I just want to make sure.
Absolutely, it's positive. We love hoes. We just don't want to marry them.
Fair. That's honest. That's honest.
You kidding me? They're doing the Lord's work.
The Lord's work. I don't know about that.
If it weren't for hoes, there would be a lot of guys wouldn't get laid at all. They're doing the Lord's work. We love hoes.
Looking at it.
Hoes out here be winning like I don't know what. We love hoes.
Well, I guess it depends how you define winning. If you see winning as marriage, then I don't know, because I think marriage versus sexual access is different.
It is. Everybody knows you don't get married to have sex. Everybody knows that. If you're looking to get married, you're looking to have sex to get married. You're in bad shape. You get married not to have sex. You get married to do other stuff.
Get those likes up. I actually saw. Now I'm sure you've done more reports on this, but I remember seeing a study on this that talked about that committed married people had more satisfying sex compared to those who were single. I'd have to see if I could find it.
Well, that's true, but you're talking about people that don't get laid at all. Just because you're single doesn't mean you're getting laid. They just dropped a report about how the Americans are having the less amount of sex that we've ever had, and we also have the more single people that we ever had.
Yeah, that's true.
Just because you're single don't mean you're getting laid.
No.
That's like comparing yourself to a midget. I mean, of course you're going to strong arm the midget. Of course you are. Now compare yourself to the Big Show or Andre the Giant and get back to me.
Right. Okay, so then it's to you. It sounds like it's not a double standard. You're saying no such thing as a male hoe, and women hoes are also both are good from what I'm understanding.
Well, it's great for you to I can't play the thing on here, but I mean for you to take care of your business as a man. That's exactly what the doctor orders is a 304.
Okay. That's one way of looking at it. I mean, my channel is anti.
If you want a decent lady to have your kids legitimately and stuff like that, and you want to build a legacy and you want to do things the right way, that's what wives are for.
Wow, yeah.
See, the problem that a lot of guys have is they get the 304s, they rock their world, and they want to try to make Betty Crocker out of them. You cannot make a hoe into a housewife. A hoe gonna be a hoe. She's gonna have to remain in a hoe slot.
That's true. That's facts.
And that's the reason why in the Game of Thrones world you had your legitimate wife and then you had your 304 on the side.
Yes,
You ever watch Game of Thrones?
I never did, but it sounds like some of you guys.
Anybody, Chantel, you ever watch Game of Thrones?
Oh, I haven't.
I think Rebecca looks like she's watched it.
Yeah,
you know what I'm talking about, Rebecca, right?
I watch it.
Yeah.
All the great houses of Westeros, all the lords of the houses there, they all got their legitimate wife and their legitimate children, and she lays claim on the house and the name and the lands and the wealth and all the rest of it. And then you got the 304s there, the wenches in the back streets there. They do what they do. And if they have any kids with them, they ain't got no claims on nothing. That's too bad.
I want to add, because then what Obsidian is saying, then it's not a double standard, because I Googled the definition of a double standard and it says principle which is unfairly applied in different ways to different people. So if in that situation, then it's not unfair, because if you can't have a male hoe, then that's not a double standard.
Well, that's because women, it takes more to get women to say yes than to get men to say yes. So this is the reason why it's no great achievement for a woman to have a whole bunch of guys lined up. That's no great achievement. But it is a great achievement for you to knock down a whole bunch of broads, though. That's a huge achievement. We lionize those guys. Those guys are in the pantheon of great heroes. They have reached mythic status for getting multiple amounts of women to say yes.
Well, as far as Game of Thrones is concerned with this, King Robert Baratheon, what did he have, like 24 bastard
about that
kids? Yeah, okay, so he had to be king of the 7 kingdoms in order to have that many women, but a woman, yeah, she just had to be a woman. So yeah, I mean, it's clearly a difference, but double standard.
There is no double standard. That's only for fugly bras that's just trying to get on. That's the whole purpose of feminism, for fugly bras to try to get a chance.
Yeah, I think some people who insist that there's no difference or it shouldn't be no difference, or they're lobbying or arguing for more or less that they want men to be viewed no different than women, or women to be viewed no different than men when it comes to being promiscuous, but it'll never be the same thing, just for the simple thing that I just laid out. King Robert Baratheon had to be king of the 7 kingdoms in order to sleep around that much. Just a regular Joe peasant in Game of Thrones couldn't sleep around that much, but regular Joe peasant woman, yeah, she can sleep around like that. So yeah, it's a difference. There's
always going to be wenches in this world. There's always going to be wenches. I like that word, wench. There's going to be wenches in this world, and there's always going to be ladies in this world. There's a big difference between ladies and wenches, and there always will be both, and both will be properly plugged in their due time. That both will be properly plugged.
I will say I agree with Mr. Obsidian, especially on this, where even if we look at just traditionally in so many different societies, you had wives and then you had concubines, right? And they served a different purpose. Now, I will never support a woman or a man, for that matter, especially women going out and getting a high body count. That's just not what my channel is about. But I do know that, for those who do it, it's like there's a certain place, and concubines have.
Well, you're a Bible reader. You understand this better than most. There were wenches all up in the Bible.
Yes,
All
it
kind of
is,
winches
and,
in the
and that's what
Bible.
I'm saying. And I'm like, I
You know,
think
winches
sometimes,
and floozies and 304s and slores and slatterns and tarts
right?
and jump offs. All
Yeah,
kinds of
right.
stuff going on in the Bible there.
I
Right.
think the only difference is in modern society that those hoes are demanding wives
Like exactly.
privileges.
Yeah.
I think that's the disconnect.
Yeah,
That's
that's
That's the
what I
reason why
was.
we got to. That's the reason why we got to
That's-
institute whole management. We got to institute whole management. We got to teach that at the accredited collegiate level, whole and harem management 101. Because brothers have to know how to do that. Is it? Listen, you can't be making no demands here. You are only here to receive the black monolith. That's it. That's all you do here. You don't get any wifely benefits or wifely dispensations or anything like that. You don't get that. You
And
are
that's the
here
primary
to perform the duties that the wife does not want to perform. That's what you're here for. You're here to assume the position and to perform the duties that the wife considers beneath her to perform. That's your job.
Right.
And we break you off a little something, and that's that.
Right. Now, if I may, I agree. And to Chantel's earlier point, I think that is the big disconnect, that there's this assumption that you can do all of that and then all of a sudden go and be Betty Crocker. And I'm like, it doesn't work like that. Now you've seen too much, you've experienced too much, you've gone through too much, and it can happen, but it's a very, very small percentage, I think, who are
women have fungible goods. Women have fungible goods. I mean, they have it's a shelf life on what I can't go. It's PG, but you understand. The womanly parts are have a shelf life.
No, I understand where you're going. I think we touched on this a little bit more in another video.
In short, they're fighting and lobbying to not face any social penalty for being a 304. That's what they're essentially doing. They don't want to face any social penalty.
And that's never gonna happen.
What do you mean with social? There's no social penalty.
Well, no, we just said it. It decreases the probability of them getting married and getting those benefits.
They can get married. They can get married.
No, I know. Yeah, they can, but I just said it decreases. It decreases.
If a man wants a wife of a 304, they can go right ahead.
Of course they can, but all I'm saying, and I think what everybody would agree with is that it just decreases the probability that they would be able to get married and get those benefits that you spoke of. That's all. But some people do marry hoes. I mean, some of them do.
Now then, when it comes to the Westeros type of thing, you ain't gonna get no high lord to marry no 304. That ain't never gonna happen.
They can get married to somebody. Somebody somewhere might do it. Yeah.
Hey, not no day.
Okay.
I also want to add something to another issue in society today is that the 304 behavior is like that main behavior in a lot of women, kind of like to Crimson Cure comment on this point. Yeah.
Main behavior to
we're
who?
back in the pardon me?
Main behavior to who?
In society, like with the feminist movement, the sexual liberation movement. It's like back in the days when the wife behavior, being ladylike.
That's was not true.
Wait, okay. Can you let her finish her point? And then
go ahead.
Yeah, like back in the days when being ladylike, and back in like the Bible days, being ladylike was looked down on, and if you were a 304, you would kind of hide it. If you weren't a virgin, if you had a high body count, that's something you would have been embarrassed about. But in this day and age with the sexual liberation, it's like women proudly say that, look at Brittany Renner, who proudly went through her list of who she slept with, and we have Sierra proudly twerking on social media. So I think that whole behavior is like the standard these days, as opposed to back in the days when being a lady, wanting to be a wife was the standard.
That's not true. We have Josephine Baker. You ever heard of Josephine Baker?
No.
Yeah, exactly. Josephine Baker was starting it up like I don't know what back in the 20s. Are you kidding me?
But that's one person. Yeah. No, you can go on social media and scroll.
But that's just it. There was a whole bunch of different women back there. Mae West, you never heard of her?
I'm probably more than likely would not heard of anybody you mentioned. But my point is that was one person. Like that wasn't the standard in society.
Mae West was a major star. Josephine Baker was an international star. Very rare for a black woman. I mean, my point is that yes, you can make a case that there's more of it today on a lower level, but there's a lot of instances in relatively recent American history where this is nothing new. They call it the Roaring 20s for a reason.
It's nothing new, but it wasn't the norm. In today's society, it's the norm
Right.
to get on social media and see women half naked, to see women twerking. Back in that day, you had to cover yourself. I wasn't even born in the 20s. Talk about my days. Back in the 90s, I had to make sure that my uniform skirt was below my knees. This day and age, we're wearing uniform skirts where, I mean, you don't know if you're going to school or if you're going to the club.
And the other thing too, if you're in the if you're in the upper class, the divorce rate is only 20%. This is something that is affecting lower class people, and that's a fact. If you're in the lower class, if you're in the working class, lower middle class, the divorce rate is like 40-some%. But if you're or even tilting towards 60%. But if you a in the upper middle class, the divorce rate is only 20%. So it's not affecting everybody. It's just not. If you're a highly educated woman, white, black, or otherwise, your chances of getting married are very high and staying that way. That's just the plain truth.
Right. So I think we could probably stay here for a few more minutes, but I do have a couple of other questions I want to move on to. If you're on here, please get those likes up. Tag anybody on this discussion who you think may find it interesting. We've been having an interesting conversation about PickMes, SiMPS, relationships, all of the above, and I am so happy to be here joined by my special guest. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next question. Let's see. So,
You're having some technical difficulties again. I think you
left.
muted yourself. There you go.
Struggle is always in effect. Chantel, do you think Black women are PickMes for Pookie and Ray Ray?
No. Are we talking about the new definition of PickMes, or are we talking about the previous
However
definition?
you want to define this question. Are Black women PickMes for Pookie and Ray Ray? However you see it.
So I would say, like, I don't even know how to answer the question because I'm not like, into black. I don't surround myself with Black women who date Pookie and Ray Rays, but in terms of they reproduce with them. I don't know if they submit to them. I don't know if they follow or follow their lead, take their decision making, whatever that looks like. But I would say that they reproduce with them. So if you're going to say, they reproduce with Pookie and Ray Ray, make them a pick-me. But how we define a pick-me is a woman who would, cater to her man, serve her man. I really don't see Black women doing that to anybody. So
you don't see Black women paying for men that they find attractive or find, find attractive or
paying
whatever.
for them, meaning?
Paying for them, paying for the, I know of situations of women who have, maybe paid a guy's bill, maybe he shortened bill, bought clothes. Generally, these are really attractive men, right? These may be considered the Pookies or the F-boys or the top 10, 20% that certain women are going after. I think actually Obsidian actually makes mention of this in his book, if I'm not mistaken.
So that question is very difficult to answer because of the definition we put on pick-me earlier. So if you're going to say a pick-me is a woman who wants to cater to her man and love her man and, be submissive to her man, then no, Black women aren't pick-me's for Pookie and Ray Ray because they're not submitting to anybody, right? But then if you're going to say Black women are paying for Pookie and Ray Ray's rent and paying for their lifestyle and allowing them to be a Pookie and Ray Ray, then yes, I see that going on, but does not make them a pick-me. I think we're all over the place when we use the term pick me. There's no defined definition, so it's hard to answer that question.
Exactly. No, I do agree to a certain extent. That's why I wanted to get your feedback because like I said, I've heard this term shifts and change really based upon the attention of the person. But as I said earlier, I do think that, there are certain women who unfortunately find themselves in situations where they are being agreeable and doing all these things to men who don't deserve it, and then, like I said, that bites them in the butt and they turn around and now they're upset now they're upset at women who are being general pick-me's. I'm not saying this is everybody. I'm not saying this is the case for everybody, but it does exist. It does.
But then also, one can argue that can you be a pick-me? Let's say like myself, right? They title me a pick-me. Would I be a true pick-me if I was dating someone who required me to pay his rent? Because pick-me's usually go for the men who are providing, leading, protecting. So
right,
that's something to think about.
Based off the demeaning definition of it that they started out with, then yeah, you would be a pick-me. That's how they define it. They define it as that woman who's essentially doing any and everything, going above and beyond for some guy who's not worth anything. So
the original definition of pick-me.
So based off and that's with Sade, I almost call it Sade Chantel, but with Sade's question, that question was front loaded with the original definition of pick-me. So if you're talking about the original definition of it, then yes, they would be being pick-me's for Pookie and Ray Rays, or just jobless, unproductive guys. I tend to not use Pookie and Ray Ray that much. I'll just say, shout out to Edward Anderson, productive or non-productive. Yes, they will be pick-me's for unproductive men. So yeah, based off the original definition, but based off the definition that I think all of us generally agree to, they wouldn't be pick-me's at all.
Okay, no, that makes sense. Yeah. If you are on here, please get those likes up. Also, shout out to Game Dreamer 58 for the $10 on the super chat. We are here talking about pick-me's, simps, all of the above. And like I said, you guys I'll be curious to see 5 years from now if there is a pretty clear, consistent definition of pick-me. I don't know if this term is like new, so if that's why maybe it kind of takes on different forms. But I'll be curious to see, like, if maybe 5-6 years from now, it's like pick-me is really only used in this one context, or if it's going to continue to have this tension of it could be this, it could be that. You know what I mean? Okay. So Bernard, I'll ask you this question because you kind of alluded to this earlier, but in your opinion, are men who pay for women simps? Yes or no? Oh, I don't think I can hear you. You there?
All right, there I go. I'm sorry, just to make sure I understood the question. You said men who pay for women?
Are men who pay for women simps?
Define paying for them to make sure we're talking about the same thing.
Well, and it could, again, depending on how it could be, there's some men out there who believe, like, for example, I had an interview with Philip Scott, and he said, he was like, you know what, I believe that as a man, I'm old school. You need to pay all the bills. You need to be in a position where you're not relying on your woman financially, because God forbid something happens to her. She's hormonal. She has a sick day. She gets pregnant. You know what I mean? You want to be able to handle the load financially. Anything she brings in is secondary. So he believes, now you need to be paying all those bills. You don't need to rely upon her at all. Now, then there's some guys who are more like, no, this needs to be 50-50, yada, yada. And then there's some guys, as we talked about earlier, where if you simply support a woman who is doing good work or just doing something, it can be seen as simping. So there's all these different definitions, right. But that's what I'm saying. What would you see?
Okay. Well, based off the context that you were talking about, no, he wouldn't be a simp. And again, it goes back to reciprocity and what he's getting from her. What is she doing for him? If he's fulfilling 100% of that traditional masculine role, is she properly fulfilling 100% of that traditional feminine role? If she's doing that, he's not simping. But if he's doing all of that and she's not doing her part, then yeah, he's simping in that situation. But it depends. If the simp is you're only a simp if the woman does not appreciate it and reciprocate. Other than that, you're just a man treating a good woman right, and she's treating you right, and y'all have hopefully a working, functional relationship. So that's where I'm at with that one.
Okay. No, that makes sense. Rebecca, what do you think? Are men who pay for women simps?
I kind of agree with Bernard in that sense. Like, if a man is paying the bills, I don't think that is simping. If it's reciprocated, right? If you guys are aligned with your expectations and your roles in the relationship, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think my husband pays all the bills, like, so, and I make him foods. I make his food and I do all these things around the house, right? Like, we have our roles in our marriage. Do I think guys paying for OnlyFans and stuff like that? Like, sure. Like, but that's another, it goes back to this statement here, right? If people are supporting you in the chat or sending you financial, you know, if they're sending money through the chat and stuff like that and supporting the channel, is that simping? You could say it is and it's not, right? It depends on who is saying it, and that is subjective. I think there's a lot of, I don't know, I think we should have objective truth, and there's a lot of subjective truth here.
Yeah.
And you know, I don't know.
Okay. No, I hear you. Like I said, I've said this before because I've supported, you know, female and male channels. So it's like, would I be called a pick me because I have sent super chats to a male YouTuber that I think is doing good content? Like, I think that's silly. So it's like, to me, that's a little bit different than, you know what I mean, a dude wasting his, I don't know, his rent check on a female, you know what I mean, just for a night, or, you know, just doing things that are just extravagant. I think things have to be put within context. But
and can I also make a point too? I think a lot of these terms are used here, and I call it social media land, right? When you're out living the real world, these terms are not necessarily brought up in everyday conversation. So I think that these spaces like the YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, they exacerbate these types of terms. And yeah, people can get stuck here on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and forget to live in the real world. You know, I talk about that. I talk about that on my channel a lot. Like, what we're seeing here in the chat, what we're seeing in the comments and stuff like that, people are taking their, like, people are expressing themselves through social media, but they're not necessarily applying it the same way in real life. So
yeah, I agree. There's a lot of, I mean, that's a whole other topic. You know, people who try to portray one thing online, you know, that is totally different than their real life. Or people who go online and they compare their real life to something that's fake. You know what I mean? To a one-sided false narrative. So I think that's definitely real. Mr. Obsidian, in your opinion, are men who pay for women simps?
I think it all depends.
That makes sense. Depends on the situation, what's happening at that moment.
Yeah. I mean, if you're paying for women that haven't agreed to be bent over your couch, I mean, what's the point?
Okay. It always goes back to that couch for you.
I mean, why do men go on dates?
You know, I'm not a man, so I can't speak for that. But
dating equals porking. That's why men go out on dates. The reason why men go on dates is because dating equals porking.
In some instances, yeah, I hear you.
In all instances, name me the guy that doesn't want to hit that which he's going out on a date with.
Oh no, that's certainly what men want. Now it's, you know, obviously it's up to the women as what she is or is not going to do.
And you know what happens?
Of course, that's the motive.
Now, what happens with simps is they think if they just treat her really nice and that'll change her mind. No, it won't. If you just want to give the charity, then I recommend Goodwill.
Goodwill. Okay. Chantel, what do you think? Are men who pay for women simps?
Oh, by the way, and a good wench is worthy of her hire.
You said, I'm sorry, can you say that again? Yeah, I think I didn't hear you.
Yes, a good wench is worthy of her hire.
Well, like I said, I can't speak to that. That's not been my experience, but it's funny because, like I said, I'll speak for, just for my channel. I can't speak for the other lovely ladies' channels, but, trying to talk to women, right? Or trying to speak to women who actually want to be wives or say they want to be wives. There's a certain way you talk to them. There's a certain kind of behavior. There's certain kind of things that you encourage them to do or encourage them not to do. But like I said, to your earlier point, men are looking at this.
You're muted.
Struggle stream.
Have I been muted that whole time? Dang.
No, just for a second. Just for like 5 seconds. You're good.
Okay, yeah, I hit the microphone. Okay, sorry about that, y'all. But yeah, so that's what I was saying. It's like, my channel, there's just certain things I can't speak on because, and this probably partially has to do with just me growing up in church or growing up in certain religious environments. It's like there's just with certain behavior, there's just certain things I never got into. And that's because I was like, no, I want to be a wife. I want to be about this kind of lifestyle. And I knew that there's certain things that I didn't engage on. But I know there's plenty of women out there that's not their experience. They will be bent over a lot of different couches every other night. But like I said, that's going to come with certain consequences, and you have to decide if that's the lifestyle you want or don't want. So now, Chantel, what do you think? Are men who pay for women simps?
I don't think so. I think, as Bernard said, I think the definition of a simp is very straightforward. And if you're paying for a woman and you know that, okay, I'm paying for a service, then that doesn't make you a simp, regardless of what the service is. If it's dinner, if it's, couch activity, it doesn't matter as long as you're sacrificing or you're giving something to get something in return.
Somebody say couch activity?
Couch activity. I think the main thing in simping is you're not getting anything in return.
Right. No, that makes sense. That makes sense. And I mean, to your point, I guess, women who are willing to be more traditional minded for thinking within the context of marriage, like I said, apart from that, but I know, you're very marriage minded. Yeah, if you're going to do the traditional role, maybe stay at home, cook, clean, do whatever, then, if the equal exchange is like, okay, he's going to help pay some of the bills, that's kind of what people have been doing for years. So it doesn't seem off. If you're here, please get
I'm sorry. It would have been different and just using Rebecca as an example. She says her husband pays all the bills, but she cooks him, his meals. It would have been different if her husband pays all the bills and she just chilling, look pretty. Then that would have been simping on her husband's part. But she's doing something to reciprocate him, like showing appreciation for him paying all the bills.
Absolutely. Okay, if you're here again, please get those likes up. I have a few more questions, and then we are going to wrap this up. We have been talking about PickMes, simps, whether or not PickMes are female simps, and I've been here with these lovely special guests who I think have a lot to offer on the topic of relationships and all things related to PickMes and simping. So this has been fun. So on to the next question. So I don't know if you've heard this idea of femicide. I hear that trending a lot, especially among Black women, which is violence that is directed towards women specifically. So, Rebecca, I want to start with you. Do you think PickMe's behavior or being a PickMe promotes femicide?
Did you say me? It was like some background. Did you call on me?
Hit that mute button. I think that's the feedback. I started with Rebecca.
Oh, I'm sorry. I heard a B. I thought.
I've never heard that term.
Femicide. Yeah.
Femicide.
Yes, that is, from my understanding, it's violence, I think, and sometimes homicide directed at women. And I've heard this a lot in different Black female YouTube spaces. It's something I'm going to cover off, I think, in the next few weeks. But it's this idea of, women being targeted in violent acts.
I swear it's like every 2 days there's a new term.
Yeah,
like
I'm
every
like,
other day there's a new term.
Right.
I can't keep up. I feel like I'm out of the game already.
Yeah.
Do I think that there is a femicide from PickMes? I don't know. Maybe I'm the wrong person to start this question with. I mean, here's the thing. There are good and bad people in this world. And if we start, the problem that I see happening is that if we start grouping all men in a category and all women in a category, we're going to have divisiveness between the sexes. And I think this is just another way to continue to essentially break down this, like the idea of marriage or the idea of that men and women should be together.
Yeah.
And it just creates more and more division. Like I talk about feminism all the time on my channel because I used to be one. And there's so much negativity. It's not about equality anymore. It has really never been, but it's not about equality. It's about domination. It's about how can women be above men? But it also comes with this victimization and entitlement mentality. And so you have these two sides playing out. Like, listen, if you are modest, right? If you're a woman walking down the street, I'm not going to wear a scantily clad outfit and expect myself to freaking to get whistles, to get whatever, right? Like I'm exposing myself and I'm going to get what I desire, right? I want it to be sexualized. I wanted to put myself out there for the admiration of men, and I got that. But then you have the same women saying, well, men are trash and like this is disgusting. But baby girl, you put yourself out there in a bra and underwear and you expected to be treated with respect. So I don't see like this is what I talk about, the delusion of women and this idea of they can have their cake and eat it too. Yeah. And so I think this is another way that women are saying, oh yeah, I can have my cake and eat it too. Like, poor me, I'm the victim of homicide and sexualization and all this other stuff. Meanwhile, you're posting naked pictures on Instagram. You're walking around half naked and expecting to be treated with respect. So I'm not buying it. So that's my take on it.
I hear you that the way we present ourselves, it makes a huge difference. I mean, I was talking to somebody the other day where it's like something as simple as like a woman, if you're in a dress and you're wearing heels versus you're wearing baggy sweats versus you're wearing a tight dress. Like there's these little things that can make a huge difference in the vibes that we put off. And I think, I don't know what it is where it's like, I don't know if sometimes women, we choose to be oblivious or we really want the attention, but we want to act like we don't. I don't know what it is, but it's like, yeah, you can't be out late at night, by yourself in certain outfits in certain situations, putting yourself in unsafe situations, and then maybe be surprised if you end up getting attacked or something happens. Not that you want to blame it on the woman. It's like, I'm not saying you want to be like, oh, it's your fault, but it's also like, yeah, we do have to be safe and we do have to be reasonable. And we can't remove reason from what we do we can't do that.
Yeah. I also want to say too, it's like, if we wouldn't have OnlyFans, we wouldn't have Instagram models putting themselves out there. If you are actually proud of your body, like, and you're doing it for yourself, how a lot of women talk about, like, oh, I'm doing this, I'm dressing for myself, I'm doing this for myself. You wouldn't be posting these photos on the internet for everyone to like and for you to get validation. If it was really about your attitude for yourself, who cares what the rest of the world says about you? If you feel sexy, if you feel empowered, that should be for yourself.
Well,
right?
I tell you what, I'm glad that they're sharing the wealth.
Well, there's always going to be an Obsidian out there who's going to appreciate
it. That is true.
Right? There are those. And then unfortunately, there are those who may have Obsidian's mindset, but also be volatile or not have boundaries or understand that. You know what I mean?
I'm very content to just be an admirer from afar.
Right. But not everybody has that self-control, you know?
Yeah.
So, but no, I think you hit on some really great points. And unfortunately, as women, I think it's, for whatever reason, encouraging us as women to be self-accountable and to have boundaries is really seen as offensive. But it's like, there's no other way for you to have better results in your life other than for you to look in the mirror and say, well, what am I doing to maybe negatively impact me? Or maybe, I don't know, maybe for me to give off certain vibes or certain expectations about myself that I'm not wanting to present, you know? So, Chantel, so have you heard of femicide? Let me just start there.
No, I haven't. But I mean, I'm not surprised that there's a new term.
There's a new, yeah. So I've heard this a lot, and it's like, it'll be like, oh, every few hours, you know, a black. I've heard it on different like Black female YouTube spaces when they're talking about how often Black men kill Black women. That's the context I've heard. So like I said, I'm going to address that a little later on. But with that, that's so. If you know that femicide is basically violence that is directed towards women, would you say that being a pick-me, right, would lead to femicide or would lead to violence against women?
Because so being a pick-me in the definition, men protect the feminine energy. You know, the masculine energy protects the feminine energy, so it wouldn't. To Rebecca's point, though, it seems as though a lot of women want to be victims so bad, like they'll create the situation so they can be a victim, like literally create the situation so they can be a victim. And it's like even in this week, I had to go through and clean up my social media to the point where I just decided to just, stay off. Because I mean, I went to the #1 school in Florida, go Gators, inserting that in there. And I have a lot of Black women that I went to college with, a lot of doctors, these PhDs, a master's degree, and they're constantly on social media twerking and then turning around saying, oh, well, look what all I bring to the table and there are no good men around, the men are this man. And I'm like, are we really not seeing the disconnect? We're so educated and we're not seeing it. So it's like we're so blinded, and we are, you can be addicted to trauma. You can be addicted to what's the word when it's not chaos? You can be addicted to chaos. Yeah. And I think we're witnessing a group of women who are so addicted for whatever reason, if it's a childhood trauma, or if it's whatever, for whatever reason, we're so addicted to being victims that we will literally dress naked, have a slut walk, and then turn around and say men aren't respecting us and men are this. And quick story, someone called up on my show a couple weeks and said he visits Africa, or those Middle Eastern, those traditional countries often, and he said he will spend multiple days at a time, and he finds that 14 days in, he's no longer thinking about sex. And that's why, because of how the women dress when they're there, they're not showing off their parts, they're not teasing the men, so he's not thinking about sex. So it's kind of like, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? Is it you're responsible to dress appropriately so these men don't have these inappropriate thoughts, or should the men stop having the inappropriate thoughts even though you're teasing them constantly on your social media?
Interesting. Very, very interesting way. I do remember when I went to both times actually I went to Africa, how the women dressed very different. Now the continent huge and I don't want to speak for every place, but the place that I went, the women were very conservative in how they dressed. So
And I want to add, I meant to mention this, the victim blaming. So we'll create situations for us to be victim, and then if anybody points out, wait, but you walked in, you created that situation, then it's like, oh my gosh, you're victim blaming. Oh my gosh, it's just like,
yeah, no, that's real, and it's hard because it's like in certain situations where somebody gets taken advantage of or they're really hurt. Of course, you don't want to say, hey, it's your problem. Like if somebody assaults you or something, you want to be like, yeah, they shouldn't have done that. But also, like there is two sides to every story. And to your point, let's say somebody's being loudmouth or obnoxious or tempting a guy or just doing all these kinds of different things, teasing him. Like I know of one situation where it went really bad, where two people from college had consensual sex, and then they wake up the next day or whatever, and the girl was just like, oh, I didn't want to do it, and then basically ends up accusing the man of violating her, and he went through this whole thing. Eventually, it came out that she had lied, but
was there any alcohol involved?
I'm sorry.
Was there any alcohol involved?
To my understanding, but my point is, it's like if you're in situations sometimes, and as a woman, and you're doing things, you're egging somebody on, that can sometimes have consequences. And sometimes there are women who end up even taking advantage too, like in that situation. But yeah. So like I said, all really good points.
And I want to add, I know I've been talking for a minute, so I'll shut up after this. This is why it's important to have fathers in the household, because a single mom won't teach her son the importance of not putting themselves in that situation. Men have to be extremely careful because of how evil the feminist movement make women these days. So a single mom is not going to tell her son, be careful if you're drinking alcohol, don't be around too much women. But a dad who knows how women are will give their son fair warning before they attend college.
Absolutely. My dad, my dad was, my parents were really, really conservative. And my dad in particular about certain things. But now, like looking back as an adult, like I understand. It's like, okay, yeah, certain things could have been considered a little bit controlled, but also I was spared from certain situations that if maybe they weren't that way, it could have been different. So yeah. So okay, are you familiar with the term femicide? Have you heard of that? Are you familiar with that conversation? Mr. Obsidian?
Is somebody talking to me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead. What was that?
Yeah, I said, are you familiar with that term femicide?
Femicide?
Have you okay, so are you new to that term? It's
I've heard of regicide, I heard of infanticide, I've heard of genocide.
No, this isn't. So I guess maybe I'm the only one that. So it's this idea that like every few hours a Black woman is killed or violated by Black men. I've heard this come up, obviously, and channels. Yeah. So my question to you: do you think that PickMes behavior?
Not to you. I'm talking about the women that say that. I'm like, okay, and.
Oh yeah. That it's oftentimes it's out of context. If you look at the different times, the different.
I mean, they come to me and saying something like that for like, okay, what am I supposed to do now? Yeah, it was he.
Right. When I've seen those different things, like I said, it's taken out of context, and it's usually to promote a story that either is untrue or partially true. So it's a whole other thing. But
what are they trying to promote then?
So from what I've seen, it's this idea of basically Black women, you're unsafe. You are unsafe around Black men just because Black men are violent, and here's proof. So it's femicide. This is what I'm saying.
I would agree with that. The Black men that they're around are unsafe. I agree with that.
They're right, but I'm saying that they're around, or you being in a specific area. That's different than saying.
So I would ask them, what kind of Black men are they around?
Right. Now that I can't speak for because I'm not them, but I'm just saying that's the different things that I've seen. But anyway, so getting back to the question, do you think that women being a pick-me that promotes femicide?
I never heard of that one.
Okay, so then that's.
I mean, if anything, the data shows that married women are much, talking about married Black women, are much less likely to experience, homicide,
right.
Domestic violence, murder, and all that sort of thing from their mate.
Right.
It's the women that are not married and the women that are not picked that are the ironically enough, the easy pickings for guys to beat them up, grape with the G, grape them, grope them, gripe them, smite them, and all the rest of them.
Yeah, no, that's facts. That's facts. And oftentimes when I see these stories, it's generally single women or single mothers that are being highlighted. I've yet to see a story that's been highlighted that's been from a married woman. I've yet to see it. Not to say it doesn't exist, but if it does, it's going to be in a very small percentage. Bernard, what do you
think? Pay for being single.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true. That that is that's I guess the upside or downside of being in strong.
Law of the jungle ain't no joke. Law of the jungle ain't no joke.
Yeah, it's rough out there.
A lot of sisters have chosen the law of the jungle over the law of man. They don't want to live in the land of civilized man. They want to live in the jungle, and they want to get it on with Mighty Joe Young. But see, this is what happens when you live in the land of Mighty Joe Young. He beating on you and jumping up and down on you, beating on you like Planet of the Apes or something like that. See, that's what happens. See, play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. You Tarzan, me Jane. There it is.
Yeah, no, that's real. That's real. So okay, Bernard, what do you think? In your opinion, does picky behavior promote femicide? You there? I think you're mute. I mean, unmute you.
Okay. No, it doesn't. And I was basically waiting to say what Obsidian eventually said, that if somebody is being a pick-me and she's pick-meing, to make pick-me a verb, but if she's pick-meing the right way, she's going to be picked and married. And if she's married, that statistically decreases the possibility that she's going to fall victim to all of the stuff that they try to say. But in general, to the points that they're trying to make, this is what they're doing. Okay, it's 7 billion people on the planet. I don't know, close to 400 million people in the United States. Human beings are, for lack of a better way to describe it, flawed creatures. There's going to be a statistical amount of people that are going to be killed, unfortunately.
Yeah.
One is too many, but there's a statistical amount of people that are going to be killed. I don't even know what it is. You see people saying, clap your hands. Every 10 seconds, this happens. We've all seen those commercials. So whatever that statistical amount is when it comes to a Black woman being killed, they're taking that, and even if it's every 15 hours, a Black woman is killed by some guy that she was messing around with. They're going to take that and they're going to blow it up. They're going to go to the University of Google. They're going to find the news clipping and say, aha, it happened again today. Look at what happens when you mess with Black men. And you could literally do that across the board with all people. Now, if somebody want to say, and I think I've looked it up before. Okay. I mean, I don't want to get too deep into it, but yeah, there are some crimes that happen more in the Black community. So it may be, a few percentage points higher. But overall, across the board, women, I hate to say it. I mean, okay, the majority of people that are killed are men killed by men, but there's a percentage. There's a percentage of women who do get killed by men, and it's a problem. However, it's the stats. It's going to be. I forgot how many hours, but if you want to highlight that and you want to make a story out of that every day, of something that is actually statistically down. Obsidian could probably quote this better than me. Book written by Steven Pinker called Angels of Our Better Nature, where he talked about how crime is down across the board.
Yeah.
All types of crimes are down across the board. So it's actually happening less, but that's how propaganda works. You can find what you want to find and blow that up and make it be the biggest thing. And if that's all your YouTube channel is showing, and all somebody looks at is your YouTube channel and other YouTube channels like yours, then that's what that's going to be the reality to people can find into that group. And so then it turns into a situation. It's not even about, like Obsidian said, what type of men are they dating? No, it's what type of content are you consuming? And so it turns into that. And so it's easy to sell a narrative that way. But again, just look at the data and look at the amount of people in the world and how often people get killed, and run the numbers and do the math. And yeah, you're going to come up with a staggering number, but it's just statistically probable that it's going to happen. So
yeah, no, that makes sense. And to your point, after looking at the numbers, I'm going to cover this off a little bit more detailed, but it's majority of homicides, to your point, it's men doing things to men. I mean, you're right there. So anyways, well, I do want to be mindful of the time. I know a few of us are on somewhat of a time restraint. And so I do appreciate you guys for being here. I'm going to ask you one more question, and then we can wrap this up. So Rebecca, I will start for you. Are PickMes female simps?
I knew I was going to start this one. I don't think so. Yeah, I'm just going to leave it at that. I don't, because women tend to, realistically, women tend to get what they want regardless, like in the sense of if she's simping, she's probably going to get, how do I say this? If she's simping for sex, she's probably going to get sex. So I don't.
I think I understand what you're saying. I see it as women get benefit from being pick-me's, whereas I don't know that there's a benefit for men ever being a simp.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Bernard, what do you think? Are pick-me's female simps? You there?
Muted.
Oh, whoa, that's heard some. Oh wait, there I go. Am I back?
Yes.
Okay, I think I was muted at first. I'm sorry, but to answer the question, are pick-me's female simps? Based off what we said earlier, no, for a number of reasons. The simp is obviously the person who's in the weaker position when dealing with the woman. He's looking up to her, he's catering to her, he's pandering to her, he's uplifting her at the expense of downgrading himself. A woman isn't going to respect that anyway, so he's working against his best interest in doing that. So, but again, with a pick-me, if she's in that weaker position, I mean, she technically should be. I mean, most women. I mean, actually, the first conversation me and you ever had, Sade, on my channel, that probably was, I don't know, that might be going on a year ago now. I had pointed out that a woman, yeah, she wants to look up to her man. She wants him to be smarter than her, bigger than her, taller than her, stronger, better at managing money, better at making decisions. She wants to be in the weaker position. She wants to look up to him. And so the pick-me who caters to this man who she wants to be in that dominant position, that's sort of how it works. That's nature. So right. So you can't flip it around and make those two things be the same thing. The pick-me, based off how we defined it earlier, she's in her proper place, and the man who's doing right by the pick-me, he's technically in his proper place. He's carrying on the traditional masculine role. She's carrying on the traditional feminine role. When there's a simp, there's one person who's at least trying to do one role, and the other person not reciprocating, thus making him a simp. He's only a simp. That's the most important thing from this conversation. He's only a simp because she does not appreciate or reciprocate. Therefore, they can never be the same thing. But all right, that's it.
Okay, no, I agree. I think I totally agree with that one. Mr. Obsidian, what do you think? Are pick-me's female simps?
I don't know.
Fair Fair point. I know you said you don't associate with them, so fair point.
Yeah, I have no idea. Now we could go back to that other piece we was talking about earlier with the ladies that put their pictures up and say they're doing it for themselves. Now, what we could do, because I was thinking about getting me a 70-inch TV set and putting it on the wall there, and enjoying the scenery there.
Enjoying the scenery. Those women just want attention. Let's just be honest.
Well, what's wrong with that?
Attention.
What's wrong with attention?
I'm not saying there's necessarily anything right or wrong. It's for attention. That's not because I want to express myself, to Rebecca's earlier point. It's like, no, because if you express yourself, this is why that video where she says I don't have pretty privilege.
They're exercising their First Amendment rights to express themselves.
They are. It's a right. It's a right.
I appreciate that right. God bless America.
It is definitely a right. Okay, Chantel, what do you think? Are pick-me's female simps?
I think no. I think they're a bunch of combative, passionate women on YouTube who wanted to kind of encourage men to not support pick-me's. So then they brought up this topic to say, oh, pick-me's are like simps. They were the ones who I first heard pose the question, at least, where they brought up this topic to kind of distract men from supporting pick-me's. So they're like, oh, well, if you're going to call a man a simp, then she's going to be a pick, or, a pick-me is a simp. But at the end of the day, men want pick-me's, women don't want simp. I know my man tell me if I'm no longer a pick-me, he's leaving me, right? My man is not a simp. And if he ever became a simp, that's it. So I think pick-me's can't be simps because, one, a simp is going against nature. And a pick-me is in the direction of nature.
Okay. Awesome. Well,
what do you make about gorilla simping? Have anybody ever heard of that? Gorilla simping?
I haven't. Now that's new to me.
I've heard the term. I don't know the working definition, but I have heard the term.
I would imagine that's like ultra strength simping. I don't know what that is. Like raw primal simping. I'm not sure what that means. Simping with a banana or what? I don't know what that means. I'm trying to understand what gorilla simping means.
Where have you heard this?
I heard this online from a gentleman by the name of, you probably heard this most erudite philosopher by the name of Reg the Bad Guy. And he frequently uses this term gorilla simping. I'm trying to understand what that means.
That's new to me. Maybe I'll have to do another exploration on that. Gorilla simping, femicide. I wonder if they're connected. Maybe.
No. I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't. I feel like there's new terms. I wish there was like a portal where we could just find the newest term of the week, because it seems like there's always one happening every few days at this point. I can't keep up. So, but no, this has been fun. It's been colorful. I love hearing all your guys' perspective as unique and in some ways, I'll just keep it at unique. As it's been. I appreciate all of you guys for being here. Mr. Obsidian, good luck with that 70-inch TV.
Yes.
Do you guys have any final words or thoughts?
Hopefully you could be in VR. Hopefully you could be in 3D. Where's my echo box? 3D TV.
Oh, that's happening soon. That's coming probably sooner than we think. So
coming at you.
So do you guys have any final thoughts? Anything you'd like to leave with before we sign off? Rebecca, I'll start with you. I know you have to skedaddle.
No, I think we covered a lot.
We did.
We covered a lot of topics or a lot of different points. But no, I think that, on my channel, and what my message is going to be is to hold women accountable. And if women want to be wives and more traditional, you can come to my channel and find some tools and resources to do that. but I think this was such a good panel. I loved hearing the different perspectives, especially from Obsidian.
He always has something to say.
I need to bring him on my channel. But I really appreciate you inviting me on today,
Thank you for being here
and allowing me to share my perspective.
Always a pleasure. You're welcome here anytime. All right, Bernard, any final thoughts?
No, just thank you for inviting me up. You've been on my channel multiple times. It's my first time here on your channel. Definitely enjoyed it. Oh, it just came to mind since Rebecca is still here. I always ask this question with the women who do content similar to the three of you. What percentage, if you can completely decline if you want to, but what percentage of your audience is female?
So my female audience is 40%. I actually just
That's actually good.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
I actually just checked that the other day because I always try to see.
Sorry, I'm like, that's good. You're the first woman I know that actually has like almost majority female, because it's rough out there.
It is rough. It is rough. And I will say it's grown over time. My channel really picked up, and they used to call me like the red pill wife. And
you mean to tell me you haven't changed? I can't believe you haven't changed the title of your channel to Red Pill Wife. Just do it. Go with it.
Hilarious.
Go with it.
They used to call me the red pill wife. But the more and more I speak, more women have been coming to my channel. So I'm excited. I speak to them on Instagram and I can see that women are changing, and it's from all parts of the world.
All right.
Funny enough, to answer Bernard's question, a couple months ago, probably like 2 months ago, I was at 50-50. And I was so excited about that. And then I got a spike in my... I was 50% woman.
What did you do to run off the women?
Well, no. So I was at like probably like 46% female, and then I got a spike in subscribers, and then now I'm at like 85-50, and I was just like, but I mean, at least I still have a lot of female subscribers still there from when I was at 50, almost 50-50.
Okay. Okay. Oh, looks like we have Raw says divestors coined gorilla simping. Okay. They're Pookie and Ray Rays who simp with a threatening, aggressive hood street flavor to it, but are still simps with no game. All right. So I guess that's gorilla simping. Thank you for that. Mr. Obsidian, any final thoughts?
Let me see here. Thank you.
Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure.
Thank you.
Chantel, this lovely Chantel, any final thoughts with the audience before we wrap up?
As always, thank you for having me on. I think final thoughts and advice to the audience and the panel. As Obsidian said earlier, like, let's not focus on the terms. Let's not focus on like, oh, pick me, what's the simp? If our goal is to start seeing better in society, these people, the distractors, they intentionally try to have these conversations to distract us from what we really need to have the conversations about. So discussing, if pick-mes are here for this reason, or if men are simping for this reason, I don't think we're doing too much of a service by focusing too much on these kind of conversations. The conversations, how we can better ourselves, how we can improve, how we can work with our men, and how our men can, work with us. Those are the kind of conversations we really need to be focusing on moving forward. But this was a great conversation. Thank you so much for inviting me on, and it was a pleasure being here with you guys on the panel. Always. And everyone in the chat.
Always. Thank you again. You're welcome back anytime. Well, again, I appreciate all of you. I do want to be respectful of your time, and I will definitely be in touch. Y'all have a great night.
Bye.
Bye. So there we have it. That was a really fun discussion. I love hearing different people's perspectives. Some of them I may agree, some of them I may disagree, but I think that's how you learn. I think that's how sometimes you're challenged, and even sometimes that's how you are. You're solidified in your own beliefs, and you're solidified in what it is that you do stand for. I do want to give a shout out to Philip for the 25 on the super sticker. I appreciate all of you guys who've been here, hanging out with me, listening in, sending your support, however big or small. It is very much well appreciated. And thank you for spending your time with me today. I mean, you could be literally anywhere else, but you're here with me. So I really, really appreciate it. Lastly, stay tuned. Tomorrow I have another live. I haven't promoted it yet, but you guys are the first to know that I will be having a divester come on and share why she believes that divesting is the best option for Black women. So definitely stay tuned for that conversation. It should be interesting, to say the least. So we'll be live tomorrow. And if you haven't already, hit the notification button so that you are aware of all the times that I go live and drop videos, and also hit the subscribe button if you're new to this channel. And thank you for being here. Thank you for hanging out, and we will talk later. Bye.